Hey everyone, these are my quick predictions for Nintendo's upcoming Nintendo Direct for September in 2021. And right out of the gate, we have to remember that Nintendo has a whole heck of a lot of first-party games that they're most likely gonna go ahead and showcase a couple of brand new sets of information in the form of a brand new trailer with most likely new modes, new characters, and new introductions. This is something we should expect for 5 major upcoming titles: Metroid Dread, Mario Party Superstars, Shin Megami Tensei 5, Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Pokemon Shining Pearl, and of course, Advance Wars 1 and 2 Reboot Camp. When it comes specifically to Metroid Dread, we know that Nintendo has been putting up a whole heck of a lot of trailers for this game, and this is something that we should be able to expect another heavy story trailer showcasing new abilities, new areas, and of course, brand new characters. When it comes to Mario Party Superstars, I do think they basically just need to show off brand new modes. I do think the basics of the idea is just a lot of Mario Party mini games from like other games from previous generations and previous versions of it, but they're not necessarily showcasing like what's going to make them new other than brand new visuals. I think a couple of new modes and something along those lines is definitely going to bring a lot of attention to a game that's in desperate need of it. Shin Megami Tensei 5, on the other hand, has been getting a ton of information coming from Atlas, and this is one of those games that I don't necessarily need to be showcasing any more information, but there's one thing that they haven't shown so far: English dub, and that's something that I do think this is for the very first time we're going to be able to see a trailer showcasing the characters fully speaking in English. Remember that every trailer we've seen so far has been in Japanese with subtitles on the bottom. This game is going to be translated, it's going to be done properly, so this is something that I do believe that they're going to showcase finally for the very first time. Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl just simply need to showcase a little bit more when it comes to just the underground areas and a couple of like the visual changes. I do think that people have become a little bit more impressed as the months have gone by, as they've shown a little bit more about the game. It's still not a powerhouse visually by any standard, but it does seem to be looking better and better the more they showcase the game. One of the things that could help it go a long way is of course show in Mega Evolutions. I do think that just like Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee, adding Mega Evolutions would go a long way to get people more excited for this game, and also adding a brand new Pokemon into this game would be just fascinating, because remember, those two games also had a brand new Pokemon as well, so they could actually go ahead and get more attention adding just a brand new Pokemon here and there. That's not necessarily something too surprising, but it's also like kind of logical. But I think out of all the games that they need to touch upon that are first party related, or at the very least Nintendo Switch exclusives, Advance Wars 1 and 2 Reboot Camp needs the most work, and for one very good reason. The only real criticism after the game was revealed is the fact that a lot of people were wondering, why is it a $60 game? I think it's pretty obvious. It's 2 games in one package for $60. So essentially each one of these games is just $30. They did this with the Famicom Detective Club games. Each one of those games I believe were $30. They sold the entire package for $60. It was pretty much a no-brainer. So far, Advance Wars 1 and 2 Reboot Camp has not been able to signify why it needs to be $60 or each one of those games $30 by themselves. So I do think that Nintendo needs to showcase a little bit more about this game, of course, and make it just shine a little bit more and explain to people why it's going to be justifying its price, which I do think it will. But strategy games do seem to have that criticism of just like they're not necessarily the biggest genre that people are falling in love with. Now when it comes to games that are not Nintendo related, pretty much Hollow Knight Silksong sticks out in mind. And for one specific reason, and that's the fact that this has become pretty much the next Elden Ring. Elden Ring, before it was fully revealed, it was pretty much one of those things where like people were just waiting to see more information on Elden Ring. And pretty much Hollow Knight Silksong has become that next game where a lot of people know it's going to happen. We know it's coming. That's not a surprise. We know there's a game out there being made. Obviously, we've even seen it. We've seen trailers of it. We've seen gameplay of it. But it's been one of those things where like we don't necessarily have all the information and we definitely want to play it. People are just so eager to hear more of this game that it's just one of those things where like the longer they wait to showcase it, the more people are going to be like angry if it doesn't actually live up to the hype. But essentially, I do think a very quick trailer, even a teaser would actually work, with a 2022 release date at the end of the trailer, and that's pretty much all they have to do. Now, essentially, that would actually be a delay because people are still expecting this game to drop this year, which is completely unrealistic, I think. But at the end of the day, a very quick trailer or a teaser with a 2022 at the end of the video, I think that would go a long way to just calm people's nerves about pretty much such a hyped game that a lot of people are so eager to play. Now, when it comes to rumors and speculations, I think there's been a lot made when it comes to Xenoblade Chronicles 3, and there's just like non-stop people talking and expecting this to be essentially the closer for the Nintendo Direct. And I don't necessarily know where this is coming from. I don't know why people assume this, but it's become one of those things when like the internet says this is gonna happen, there's no way to change their mind. So I don't necessarily think Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is gonna be showcased here. I do think it would be fantastic. This is one of those games that I'm extremely eager to see what they're gonna do. Monolith is actually gonna do with this game, with this series going forward. But to expect it to be the closer for a Direct, much less one of those things that they're going to showcase right now, if that game even is set to release next year, I just don't necessarily see it. But, you know, something has to close the Direct, and if we're talking exclusives, I guess there's something along those lines, like a Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is probably right for the picking when it comes to just being the flagship game that Nintendo reveals and showcases the Direct with. And of course, I guess this is no better time than to actually speak about the Game Boy Color rumors essentially coming to the Nintendo Switch Online. And I do think that this is one of those things where, like, if they're actually going to showcase this, I think there's a lot of misconceptions and people are not necessarily understanding what this is actually going to encompass. And that's because pretty much every list of games that I see people post of the games that they actually want to see being added into this Nintendo Switch Online ecosystem that are Game Boy related, I see people posting lists of games that are like Game Boy Advance games. And they don't seem to understand that Game Boy, would be the one that green and black screen, the very original OG Game Boy Color, and Game Boy Advance are three completely separate systems. They're not the same thing. Yes, they have Game Boy on the title, and yes, Game Boy and Game Boy Color are very much similar, but Nintendo, in the way Nintendo sees it, that's not the way I see it, that's not the way you should see it, this is the way Nintendo actually sees it, is that the base Game Boy, the very OG, the Game Boy Color, and the Game Boy Advance were three completely separate systems. They don't mix them up in the least. The libraries for each one of those games are completely separate, so they're not even in the same realm. So when I see people put up these like list of 20 to 40 games that they want to see come to the Nintendo Switch Online because Game Boy games and Game Boy Color games are being added, which is what the rumors are actually reporting, and then in their list are adding Game Boy Advance games, that's just not realistic. You're setting yourself up for disappointment and failure, and that's just not something that you should be doing in the least, and I don't necessarily understand it. So when we actually start to look into the actual Game Boy and Game Boy Color game lists, you actually start to see that there's a lot of really good games, but there's going to be one big omission here, and that's the fact that I don't think Nintendo is going to be able to put in any Pokemon games here at all. And that's pretty much because Game Freak knows that they can sell those games again in some sort of collection or anything along those lines, bundled separately, and they don't have anything to do with Nintendo Switch Online or any of those games. On top of that, any Pokemon game on the Nintendo Switch needs to have a connection to Pokemon Home in order for you to be able to transfer your Pokemon into Pokemon Home and then bring those Pokemon from Pokemon Home into any other Pokemon game on the Nintendo Switch. Now, any game that's on Nintendo Switch Online is just basically an emulator. They're not necessarily connecting you to servers or anything along those lines at all. So it's one of those things that, like, very directly Game Freak is going to signify, like, hey, those games don't connect to Pokemon Home, so therefore they cannot be part of this package at all. And I don't think Nintendo is necessarily going to sit there and actually argue for that. I don't necessarily think this is going to be one of those things that, like, they're going to be too concerned with, because let's remember, the Game Boy, this is the core Game Boy, and even the Game Boy Color libraries are deep. They're so deep that Nintendo is not hurting to put in any more games that are, like, too concerning. Would there be a major gap by not having Pokemon Red and Pokemon Blue in a Nintendo Switch Online, Game Boy library? Of course there would be. Pokemon Red and Pokemon Blue are flagship Game Boy games, period. There's no way to spin it. They're just like some of the best games on that system. With that said, like I said before, Game Freak does not seem to be obligated to be adding them or even letting Nintendo putting them in outside of anywhere. Let's remember that Pokemon Gold and Pokemon Silver were added onto the Nintendo 3DS eShop, this is back on the 3DS, in the summer of 2017. And Pokemon Crystal, this is a Game Boy Color game, was added on the Nintendo 3DS eShop in 2018. Remember, the Nintendo Switch came out in March of 2017, and Game Freak was still adding Pokemon Game Boy Color games in 2018 onto the 3DS's eShop. So it's one of those things where like Game Freak does not need to necessarily care about what Nintendo Switch Online is or even is attempting to do. They're going to do pretty much exactly what they want to do. So I would not sit here and tell you to expect Pokemon Red or Blue, which should be the flagship ones that they need to add into Nintendo Switch Online. I don't think that's actually going to happen, and you probably shouldn't be expecting that either. So which Game Boy games should you actually expect? Well, pretty much Super Mario Land, Super Mario Land 2, Donkey Kong, Wario Land. I do think The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening DX is pretty much a no-brainer. That's a Game Boy Color game. They should be adding that, no problem. Remember, that's also in that Game & Watch collection that they're putting out later this year, so I don't think they necessarily care about that all that much. I don't expect Zelda Oracle of Seasons, either one of them, or Ages, only because I think those are going to be the next remakes that we're going to see, like the Link's Awakening game that we got a few years back, so I don't think they're going to be adding any of those in. Kirby Dream Land is pretty much a no-brainer. Kirby Tilt and Tumble is one of those like, yep, this is a pretty good Game Boy Color game. They should be able to add that in. You know, Mario Golf, Mario Tennis, Tetris, of course, Donkey Kong Land, Metroid 2, Kid Icarus of Myths and Monsters. These are no-brainers. Dr. Mario, Harvest Moon, if they could actually get old Natsume to actually give them the rights. You know, Kid Dracula with Konami, this is something that they could work with. Operation Contra, this is another no-brainer. Mega Man 5, if they could actually get, you know, Capcom to work in and actually just let them have that game, sure, they'd be able to throw that in there, no problem. But Pokemon, I wouldn't necessarily expect it. But that's going to be my predictions for this Nintendo Direct. I did pretty much go long in here only because I was talking a little bit more in detail as to what I think is actually going to happen, instead of just the expectations of the internet, which always seem to be just brand new Zelda, brand new Mario each and every single time, or Mario Kart 9, which of course that's not going to happen. But if you're brand new to my channel, be sure to leave a like and subscribe, hit the bell to receive notifications when the videos go up, and as always, thank you so much for watching. See ya.